The bulls are back. It seems like everybody has flipped in an instant from bearish to bullish on the cryptocurrency market. This video is going to be a slap of reality, or a reality slap, I should say, because, you know, first of all, we're going to go over the reasons why Bitcoin made the move that it made. This is not because institutions were loading up on it or because, you know, we know that the road ahead is a clear one. This was just traders basically range trading and bidding it up. And now potentially they may start to bid it down, but we'll drop down the time frames. But what this video is really going to be more than anything is a sort of macro outlook on crypto. And we've been saying this for a while now, that Bitcoin has never had to face these conditions that we're currently moving into. And given how it's already acted going into the conditions, I think is quite telling, given its tetherage to the likes of the NASDAQ and other risk asset classes. You know, I think it's going to continue to perform in a similar manner. But we're going to get into all that in this video. We're going to kick things off really by looking at the Fed fund rate and looking at what essentially has happened with the Fed fund rate since Bitcoin came about. We will dive into a bit of the news like we always do, guys. But we'll save that towards the end of the video. Mainly the news right now is just about Celsius and the fact that they've somehow lost $1.2 billion. I mean, you couldn't make this up. People should be going to jail for this sort of stuff. And they actually owe $4.7 billion to their consumers, or to their customers, sorry. It's criminal. Anyway, we'll start and we'll get on to a number of other things like the fact that OpenSea are laying off 20% of their staff. We've seen this with Coinbase. We said that there's more of this to come, you know, and it's because we are, in my opinion, moving into a recession. People are still kidding themselves on that we don't hit a recession, that everything that's happened in the past 2 years isn't the perfect storm for a recession. You know, there's no doubt in my mind we are heading into a recession. Does it have to come in the next 3 weeks or 3 months? Potentially. We're literally just waiting at this point for them to announce the fact that the last quarter was negative. A recession is defined by 2 negative quarters. And then that's when people panic. And we've looked at the likes of the NASDAQ and the S&P in a recession. And what they typically do, we looked at the 200 weekly moving average. We're there now for the NASDAQ. You know, we always... The thing is with markets is they don't just go straight down. They have relief rallies. And you can try and trade that. But ultimately, I'm a big believer in the fact, and what we try and do here is keep people as safe as possible in regards to their capital, that you should expect more pain given what we're moving into. You know, I don't think that there's much of a positive outlook in the short-term future. Long-term, no doubt in my mind that crypto is going to change the world. Blockchain really is a technological revolution that is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. We already see the world moving towards adopting it as a tech. We're talking over the internet, which was spawned from a tech revolution. On a computer, PC revolution, you know, we drive cars, which was a motoring industry revolution. Some of us take trains. You know, blockchain is very similar in the sense that it's a technology that's here to stay and change our lives. We're going to be using it seamlessly. It's really going to get integrated. But this is the Fed funds rate. So this is interest rates set by the Federal Reserve, so the central bank. And this is very much mirrored around the world. The US is the big one. And you can see that Bitcoin was born here, in a time where essentially they were bringing down rates. Now, when you bring down rates, what you essentially do is you pump liquidity into markets because you make loans more accessible and you really facilitate liquidity. Quantitative easing is what it's called. Markets do well in those conditions. They typically don't do well on the other end of things. And what I'm going to show you in this is, because it's very interesting, the bear market that we had back in 2018, I think had a lot to do with quantitative tightening, or what they were attempting to do with interest rate hiking. And we know they had to very quickly undo that because they were basically imploding the repo market. Banks just stopped lending to one another, certainly the big banks, because it was becoming very tight and unprofitable to do so. Or really because there was a liquidity shortage, you know, it kind of got clogged up. And this is what happens when you up interest rates. Liquidity gets taken off the table. What moves markets? Liquidity. You're looking at Bitcoin USD. It means US dollars have to go in order for Bitcoin to go up. So it's very interesting, the kind of time period that we're in, because Bitcoin, like I said, was born over here. And since then, really rates have just gone down. You know, you can see it. This is a zero mark here for rates. Yes, they tried to up them into 2018, but then they had issues with the credit markets, the repo markets, and then they, of course, had to undo them very quickly. And if we take a look at where Bitcoin's bull market actually started, do we have a chart of Bitcoin up here? No, we can pull one up. We'll get rid of whatever I've been drawing on there. And we'll get it off the, this was when the bull market really got going again for Bitcoin. Back in January 2019, and really didn't kick off properly till, March onwards, or 2020 onwards. And this was when they were bringing rates back down. You can see you still had your rates here, but they were reducing them. I think this kicked off hope for the bull market to return. And then obviously as they went in, the bull markets continued. Now we're back at a tightening cycle. So Bitcoin has seen tightening before, but not to this magnitude. The last time I think we did a 75 basis point interest rate hike, which is coming this month, by the way, and we had one last month, was back in like the 1990s, I believe. So Bitcoin has actually never had to deal with this kind of an environment, and how it's going to deal with it is going to be extremely interesting. I'm excited to see what comes out of this. There is the flip side to the coin that maybe it does well. Maybe in a stagflationary environment where we have very high inflation and we have, very low growth, people maybe look to preserve wealth in the likes of Bitcoin. We see in poorer countries, and what I mean by poorer is, in terms of per person and in terms of, standards of living and development and all this sort of stuff, we actually see people moving towards Bitcoin because their own currency is garbage and they can maintain value. In fact, we see a huge adoption in terms of USD stablecoin. So this is a thing you've really got to get to grips with. And talking about markets, bring up the NASDAQ composite. This is what it's done since 2000. This is 2008. So remember when they started easing monetary policy. Markets have gone like that since. We haven't really had a recession. Yeah, we had March 2020, which was a capitulation event, which of course caused the Federal Reserve and everybody else to really rush in and try and keep them afloat. But markets have essentially just gone up. This is Bitcoin's life so far. This is the conditions that it's been under. Again, the S&P. You could really choose any market, except for MicroStrategy, because they literally stayed flat until they bought Bitcoin. So they never even recovered from the dot-com boom until they bought Bitcoin. But we've shown that in other videos. Markets have essentially just gone up. But what happens when they enter some sort of an inflationary environment? And we've spoken about this on the channel, and I think it's something to still bear in mind. Yes, everybody loves a green day for crypto. Even people that are cash heavy and actually have short positions. Yeah, you may get stopped, but I'm happy if crypto's going up. This is my issue. We've seen this play out before a recession hits. We made a video saying that Nasdaq's got a long way to come down. We got ridiculed for it, and here we are. And I think it's got lower to go. You always interact with this EMA. This is going into the 2008 financial crisis. Again, you interact with this 200 EMA. This is the 2000s. Look at where we are today with a recession literally around the corner. If we're not already in one, I think they're just stalling from actually announcing it. Do we act in the similar fashion? Do we go down and into it? So why am I seeing so many people go, I've bought the bottom here for Bitcoin. I've bought the bottom here for crypto. How do you know that? You've been calling it the whole way down. By the way, we were still bullish relatively here throughout this phase. We were wrong. We thought that potentially you'd have some sort of an extended cycle that was going to be led by adoption. Hasn't happened, and that's because the macro is really a weighing factor. We got out round about here, or certainly started to position into cash around about your 40k zone. And it's paid us so far, and I think it's going to pay us to be cautious moving forwards. We can absolutely be wrong. Maybe something changes. Maybe the Fed break, the credit markets or something like that again, and they have to go back to stimulating and pumping liquidity back into markets. Then we're wrong, but we'll see that and we'll change on that. And I think, with inflation, and let me just drop down to the daily. Get rid of all these draws. Why did Bitcoin go up? Well, traders trade these markets, guys. Trading is not an easy game, by the way, for anybody that has tried their hand at it. They will know this. You're just looking at a range trade right now. Let's take that a little bit back. you could say that's the range, and these are sort of deviations above and below it. Swing failure. People are bidding it up. The issue is now what happens if you have a swing failure here. After a really good run, by the way. We got stopped out shorts yesterday. But because we got risk management, it doesn't even dent the portfolio. You don't get every trade right, and you'll learn a lot more from the wrongs that you get. You'll learn a lot more from the trades that you get wrong than you do the ones you get right. And it's how you deal and can actually act in that sort of a scenario that makes all the difference. But what happens if this is now a high failure, and you come back down? Well, just as equally, you could hold here, and you could see that continuation. And then maybe we look to play something like that. Or it could keep climbing. But one thing you've got to remember is that, markets don't just go down in straight lines. That you are going to have a relief rally for the crypto space at some point, just like you had over here, going into 2017. You do get points where, everybody becomes too bearish and they need to flush people out. So you will get rallies for Bitcoin. Maybe not as spectacular as this, but you will get those rallies. And, the main point of this video is to understand that if we persist in the direction that we are currently in, that is ultimately very detrimental for markets, and not a good time for markets. And Bitcoin's never had to face this kind of an environment. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the future looks like. And I just really want to reiterate that, because people get way too excited on the slightest, glimpse of hope. There's plenty of hope for crypto, just not in this current environment. That doesn't mean that we can't rally. This was something, Waller. What the CPI report did was anchor me for that we are going to go 75, talking about basis points, so 0.75%. You don't want to overdo the rate hikes. A 75 basis point hike is huge. So they haven't done a 75 basis point rate hike since the 1990s. It's bad news for markets across the board. It's unprecedented. It takes a lot of liquidity off the table. We know dollar liquidity is already at a pretty, significant low right now. We're also seeing the dollar continue to pump, which kind of adds fuel to that fire. It's very. This is my real concern, is that dollar liquidity is really taken off the table here. Our target for the dollar was actually met, so I'm not really sure how much higher it goes here. It will go higher. I just don't have any other targets other than the 108 that we gave out months ago, literally, whilst everybody else was calling for peak dollar strength and that it was going to undo. Understand the situation. I'm not a macroeconomist. There's far better guys out there than me. The likes of David Bell, he's a really good one. And you've got, Francis Hunt, the market sniper. They understand macro markets way better than I do. But I have a basic understanding, which is allowing me to really go, you don't want to play with fire in this kind of an environment. And ultimately, for me, if I can get crypto as cheap as possible, it's going to set me up in the long run for a bright future. And you guys can take part in that. A little bit of the news quickly. Got Jamie Dimon coming out and giving some thoughts, essentially saying that, there's not a good outlook. We've already covered the fact that months ago he was saying there's a storm coming, and the storm's turned more into a hurricane. Celsius faces heat for at least 1.2 balance sheet hole. How do you not be able to account for $1.2 billion? For me, that seems, like insanity. And somebody should probably go to jail for that, because that $1.2 billion more than likely was given to them via their customers. OpenSea lays off roughly 20% of its staff. This is a sign of the times, that the NFT sector, of course, is going down in terms of popularity or demand with the crypto sector. More of this is to come, in my opinion. The UK Financial Watchdog exec hints at importance of international collaboration on crypto regulations. Regulations are going to be a bad thing in some areas, a good thing in others. And they're really, in my opinion, going to spur on the next wave of adoption for the cryptocurrency market, as you're going to see institutions treated as an asset class now that they have the regulatory clarity, and really push and promote it. On that note, guys, I'm going to love and leave you. Hopefully this hasn't been too much of a depressing one. There is good news for crypto, but I just don't think it comes yet. It annoys me, all of these bottom callers, because they've been calling for bottoms for as long as we've been going down from 69k. How are they sure? And the odds, by the way, are massively stacked against you in the fact that this is a bottom. You're not just doing a similar thing to what you did over here, or over here, or maybe here, or here. We haven't seen the volume come in. And in terms of the macro, going back to the weekly, if you look at all your indicators, there are no divergences here of the bullish kind. Wait for these if you're going to get bullish. That's all I've got for you in this one, guys. I'll see you in the next YouTube video. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed the content, like us, appreciate it, so a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.